Hey guys, Alan here. Just an update. I've been working on the mill past couple of days. I've actually gone through and built a new controller for the Mikini, a new machine, a computer to control the Mikini mill. Um, Let me just show you. This is this is the controller that came with the mill. Um, This is the one I bought from Mikini and been using for a while. I was having trouble with, I think, the USB bus getting overloaded on this. So basically what this is it's an industrial type embedded computer based on an Intel Atom. So it's running it's like got a mini ITX board inside there. With an Intel Atom 1.2 gigahertz processor, which is one of the older Atoms, and it's got like a small 2.5 inch hard drive inside and a single gig of memory, and of course it's running Windows XP, cut down version of Windows XP, that's put together by Mikini for their tool, and it's got of course the profile and everything on it. Problem I was having is when I was cutting on a longer program, I would get an error from my smooth stepper saying that the smooth stepper ran out of data during a move operation and basically would shut down, and I'd have to re-index and restart the program from that line. So it got to be kind of a pain. I noticed when this happened that it would seem like the USB bus was just overloaded because you couldn't, the touchscreen on the touchscreen monitor would become non-responsive or slow to non-responsive, and also the keyboard and mouse would become kind of slowish to non-responsive, and both of those are on the USB bus. So there's the touchscreen monitor, and then there's the keyboard and mouse, and they would just kind of become slow and non-responsive. Eventually, once you shut everything down in terms of the error from the smooth stepper, then everything would, these would become responsive again, and you could move the mouse around and you could touch the touchscreen and have it work. So it seemed like to me like the USB bus was just getting overloaded somehow, and my smooth stepper was configured, with kind of the defaults in terms of the bandwidth per axis. So I don't know what was causing it. I just think this was not capable of keeping up in terms of the speed of everything that was going on all the axes. I think it's just it just wasn't able to keep up. It's kind of a slow processor is the biggest thing I think. That 1.2 gigahertz processor Atom is a slow processor. So I decided to build a new one, a new control PC, and this is it. It looks very similar to the Tormach machine controller because I basically used theirs as the basis for my design. So it's the same case as the Tormach one, and it's the same motherboard. It's a little Intel mini ITX motherboard that you can get off of Newegg, and you can get the case off Newegg as well. It's got a parallel port, so I have that option in case if I still continue to have trouble with my smooth stepper, I can switch to parallel port operation. Right now the smooth stepper is plugged in. I like the fact that it's got a 3-prong grounded power supply. The old power supply on this other computer, it's 3-prong on this, but it's like a laptop power supply. I'm not really sure how well the grounding is done. Here there is a grounding screw and a ground wire, but I don't know if it's actually hooked up through the power supply to an actual ground wire coming from the AC outlet. No clue. But so yeah, this has an actual 3-prong ground wire, and basically it's the internal processor is a 2.33 gigahertz Core 2 Duo. It's got 4 gigs of RAM. Windows XP will only see like 3 and some change, like 3.2 I think, but it's got 3.2 gigs of RAM. So a much faster computer. It's got a 1 terabyte hard drive. Don't need a 1 terabyte hard drive, but that's all I had laying around. This is the smallest I had laying around. So, and I wasn't using it, so I figured, well, might as well use it for this. Got this all hooked up yesterday. I used Enlight, which is a utility that you can download for free from the internet to make customized versions of Windows XP, and you can slipstream in things. So I slipstreamed Service Pack 3 onto a disk. And then also the other thing Enlight lets you do is you can remove components from Windows. So for example, you can remove the security center that notifies you that the firewall is not running. You can remove the desktop notification that notifies you that there's unused icons on the desktop. You can remove Windows Update, for example, if you don't want Windows Update popping up and checking for updates. So that's what I did. I went through and I cut down the installation to just the bare minimum things I thought I needed for Windows. So the final size of the ISO was like 280 something megs, so I cut it down quite a bit. And then the other thing I did was disabled the LAN interface card in BIOS, and I disabled the sound card in the BIOS so that there's nothing running interrupts except for that which is needed for the machine to function, or for the computer to function and perform its primary task, which is a machine controller. So, very fast computer, no extraneous stuff running on the computer that's not necessary to its function. And then the other thing I did when I installed Windows XP, rather than installing it in ACPI mode, which is the default, and with a multiprocessor HAL, I installed it with a standard PC HAL, which is a very old school hardware extraction layer, which is the kernel driver that abstracts the hardware. I used a very old standard PC hardware abstraction layer that's more basic than the newer ACPI stuff because it has less power management functions and it's more straightforward, and something that's single threaded like Mach actually prefers standard PC HAL because of the way it operates and the way it tries to access the hardware at a low level. It's less abstracted through the standard PC HAL. So I installed that HAL and got everything up and running yesterday. Was having trouble with the smooth stepper giving an error almost immediately every time you would move an axis or do anything with the spindle. It was getting an FTIO error, which the smooth stepper uses the FTDI USB chip. So basically it was a USB error from the FTDI driver. Played around with some different options. What I found was that if I ran a ground wire from the PC screw for the power supply to the ground plane on the machine, all my errors went away. So here's the ground plane on the machine right there. So I ran a wire to that, and one of the things, my smooth stepper was actually mounted up here with a piece of Velcro. So I bought my smooth stepper from Mikini when I ordered the machine, and that's how it came, was attached up there via Velcro. I decided, based on my experience yesterday, to actually move it here and put some computer standoffs into the steel board and mount the smooth stepper onto the main electronics board. We'll see how this works. It should be interesting. There's also a jumper on the smooth stepper to down here to determine whether this corner is grounded. And so I've got that jumper on, and that will ground the smooth stepper basically to the same ground plane as the machine. So I'll be interested to see how that behaves. I've taken the ground wire off of here from the PC for now, just for testing, to see how it performs with the grounded smooth stepper grounded to the same ground plane as the machine. So we'll see how that works. What I wanted to show you on this board over here was something I discovered when I was doing this task. This is the Mikini interface board, and it interfaces all the different components to all the other components basically. And one of the things I noticed on this, if you look at this capacitor here, you can see that it's not very well attached. So I just noticed that actually hanging kind of at an odd angle as I was putting the smooth stepper board in. I said, that could be a problem. So I don't know how that happened. I don't know if it came from the factory that way, or if it was a result of having all the components thrown in a single box and shipped together in one box. And because a lot of things, the motor was in there with them, the 22-pound BLDC motor was in there with the boards and just kind of rattling around. So I found a capacitor like this in the bottom of the box, actually, that I received from Mikini when I got the version 2 electronics. So, and I never could figure out where it went, and I'm still not entirely sure where it came from, or if it needs to be on one of these boards or what. But I did find an extra cap like this in the bottom of the box, and the computer got crushed, and one of the capacitors on the spindle board got kind of munged. I can show you that as well. So, let me just show you. So you might have trouble seeing here. You can see the top of that cap is just basically dented in a little bit. I don't think it's actually compromised it. I think it just dented it. But that's one of the things I noticed when I pulled it all out. So, so now I'm going to repair that, and then we'll see what difference.